Mr. Speaker, I am happy that you protected me from the wrath of Honorable Kwenya, because maybe one of the nominees is from his village who has been dismissed, Mr. Speaker, and now who's seeking a job through ambassadorial appointment. But Mr. Speaker, I think the House should look into this matter in the next appointment. Mr. Speaker, why should you be appointed, if you are a cabinet secretary and you are reassigned to become an ambassador, then that's fine. It is a matter of fact that you've been relieved of your duties. Especially, I'm sure the one Kwenya is alluding to is a cabinet secretary who served for barely 3 months. Why should you be relieved of your duties of barely 3 months if it's not out of incompetence? What else can it be? If it's on health ground, then you should not go to another job. You should go back and stay at home. Mr. Speaker, why am I saying so? Because I want competent Kenyans who are career diplomats to get space so they can serve this country at the level of the apex of ambassadorial work, Mr. Speaker, which is an ambassador, as has been said by the chairman of the committee himself, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, foreign service is a calling. It's a very important job, Mr. Speaker. It's not a job that can be done by anyone, Mr. Speaker. It is a job that requires certain skills, Mr. Speaker. And you have nurtured many people when you are the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Mr. Speaker. One of the things I admire about the Speaker is his diplomatic credentials, Mr. Speaker. I'm being honest. Because we have fought here many times, and you tell me even in our mother tongue, it's dodgy, it's dodgy, it's dodgy. Calm down, man, calm down. Mr. Speaker, it's dodgy, quote in quote. So, Mr. Speaker, this is a job that requires special skills. What skills is that you could not run a ministry that now you have acquired within the last 2 weeks so that you can go and deal with it in those foreign embassies, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, this process must be taken seriously. Secondly, and most importantly, when somebody is being given a job of ambassador, please, I'm asking the executive they should do a due diligence. You cannot give somebody a job, and when he is told to appear before the committee is when she says, no, I'm not interested in this job. There are many Kenyans who want that job. Surely. Why should you be guessing whether this person want the job or not? A former cabinet secretary was proposed to Parliament for vetting as an ambassador for which country? Ghana, Mr. Speaker. This is the second time people are declining to go to Ghana. Initially, a former member of Parliament declined. Now the former cabinet secretary again declined. Why should we be begging people with jobs when there are many Kenyans who are jobless, who have the requisite qualification to go and serve this country in Ghana? And you know, in Ghana, that is where the headquarters now of the African Free Trade offices are. We need a very important person there, not jokers who don't want jobs, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, if under this, maybe this now, you know, we are the ones now who are sending experts to government. So if there are no experts on this other side, let them tell us, we shall give them experts to go to Ghana, Mr. Speaker, under the broad-based arrangement, Mr. Speaker. We have experts who can go and work in Ghana. If you give me 10 minutes now, I'll produce one. Under this exchange program of experts. It's an exchange program under broad-based.
Deputy Speaker.
Honorable Speaker, just on a point of information for Honorable Junet, I think it's important for you to find out first what the challenges were for Honorable Margaret Nyambura not to be able to take up the position. I think she did confirm that they shared certain family challenges that prevented her from being able to leave the country and preferred to have a job within the country. So I think you need to find out what were the issues before you castigate her or castigate the station. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, yes. I think the Deputy Speaker did not hear me well. Mr. Speaker, these jobs when you are being offered, even you now, if you are to send me to a mission on behalf of Parliament to London, first you'll ask me, are you available from this date to that date? Before you bring somebody's name to Parliament. Parliament is a serious place. Before you send a name to National Assembly for approval and vetting, you must ask that individual whether he or she are interested in that job. At that level there. Not when she comes here, or the name is brought here, I tell you, oh, you see, I want to do farming, I have a big farm in Migori, I want to do sugar cane. That is afterthought. Before you give me an opportunity to serve, ask me whether I'm interested in this job, because it's not the first time, it's not the second time. I don't want it to happen again, Mr. Speaker. I want this time Kenyans who are sure, Kenyans who are willing to serve the country to be given an opportunity. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, I support the motion because some of the members also whom I see there can do, let's give them a second chance now. Let's give them a second chance. We see how they perform. Because the first chance failed, Mr. Speaker. Now let us see, let's give them a second chance. We see how they perform, how they do, how they will serve the country. Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, I support.
Mother Wangari.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also agree with Honorable Junet that we give them a second chance, because sometimes you'll have a member who will be here, not do very well as an MP, but when become a senator or a governor, they do exemplary job. And because they had not been dismissed on grounds of being ineffective or having done any issue that was against the Constitution, that we give them the chance and allow the appointing authority to do as he wishes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I sat in this vetting process, and it has come at the right time when we are reviewing our foreign policy as a country to be able to align to the shifting global dynamics, Mr. Speaker, and to be able to align to our national interests, Mr. Speaker. And that is why these appointments are very, very crucial. Mr. Speaker, the issue of Dr. Karanja, a very, very well published and renowned academic, Mr. Speaker, has a very wide experience, Mr. Speaker, and it has also come at the right time when we are expecting to hold the Conference of Parties, or what you call COP30, in Belém, Brazil, this year in November, Mr. Speaker. So we are hoping that he will be able to help us also navigate as we send our team to be able to negotiate and make progress for our country. Mr. Speaker, the other thing we were able to raise to Dr. Karanja is specifically of the missions or ambassadorial missions becoming the first stop of our Kenyans who are outside the country, especially students, when they are stranded, when we have issues in other countries. These ambassadors must be reachable, must be accessible, and must be responsive to our citizens outside the country, Mr. Speaker. These ambassadors, permanent rep, and consul generals, Mr. Speaker, are the image that we are projecting of the country and of the president in the outside world. Mr. Speaker, I also agree with the previous speakers in terms of at the time when we get a person declining an appointment, Mr. Speaker, it definitely sends a very bad picture to have Accra becoming rejected twice, Mr. Speaker. So it is important that, as has been said by the mover, that the head of public service does proper consultation with the appointing authority to ensure that if someone is not ready to take up an appointment, you reject it at the right time. Let it not go to the Gazette notice, because when it goes to the Gazette notice, even if you write to the clerk, it will already have gone out, Mr. Speaker. So the timing is very critical that we have it checked. Mr. Speaker, the issue of linking the country with our country is very important. It has become a global village. We hope that these three appointees will do a good job. I want to also pick up on Honorable Ababu Namwamba, a person who has served in this house for 10 years, has been a cast, Mr. Speaker, and we were able to interrogate in terms of his knowledge, in terms of representing us in the UNEP and UNON. And one issue, Mr. Speaker, that I personally feel about UNEP and UNON is that despite being hosted in this country, if you go to Switzerland, if you go to New York, you will see the linkage between the national and domestic interests with the offices of the UN that are located in those areas, Mr. Speaker. I feel like Gigiri in UNEP and UNON, they feel detached from what we are doing as a country. So I would hope, as he promised, that he will be able to act as a bridge between getting the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, the national interest of this country linked into these offices, Mr. Speaker. Let Kenyans also feel them as part of the global world. Mr. Speaker, the issue of Haiti is very critical. The person who has been nominated there, who is Gabo, Mr. Speaker, has been in the police for over 30 years, ended up as the DIG, has been in the policy implementation at that level, Mr. Speaker. And the one question we hope and we actually put up to him is that as we already sent our first contingent of police officers to help restore peace in Haiti, we will be looking that he'll be the go-between for those officers, because first of all, for obvious reasons, the officers are not unionized, Mr. Speaker. It would be very unfair or unfortunate for our issues, especially of welfare of those officers, to go to the media. We see them on BBC, we see them in other areas, complaining that their welfare is not being taken care of, Mr. Speaker. So we'll be hoping that when Gabo reports, if appointed and if passed in this House, Mr. Speaker, he will be able to do a good job to ensure that he's the go-between between these officers and, of course, other Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, who are in that area, who would actually be threatened by any issue or who would be having an issue of welfare. They would wish to communicate so that they're able to sort it out in-house before it gets out, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, that being said, I hope that we can also as a country be able to develop a foreign policy, as it is being done now but through the ministry, that is based on fundamental principles of peaceful coexistence, so that we can be able to preserve our national security and also have peaceful coexistence in the global world and where we sit. With that, Mr. Speaker, I support. Thank you.